the more people that we can have leading with the human first attitude in the age of AI, the better. And those are the apocaloptimists.
Welcome to the /podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. I'm your host, James Carman. Today, we're talking to Mike Hruska. Welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me.
His path to technology didn't start in a lab. It started on the road, playing guitar in the 90s with the Johnstown-based band Bad Wrench. After touring, he built a career at the intersection of humans and technology, focusing on human-centered design, adaptive systems, and AI. Today, while much of the industry is focused on making AI better, Mike's focus is human better, the idea that the future of AI will ultimately depend on the humans working alongside it. Again, glad to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And the more we say human than AI in this conversation, I think that'll be a good metric for us understanding the future and what the potentials are in front of us, because we're this wild intersection point. Everything's moving fast.
We're going to try to make it a goal to say human more than we say AI, and we'll have to check the transcript of the podcast. But I like that goal. I think that's an admirable one for sure. I got to hear about Bad Wrench though. That jumped out at me. Like, tell me about Bad Wrench.
Yeah, so my grandfather liked to buy me stuff when I was a kid, and he bought me encyclopedias when I was 5 and 6, sets from the 70s and 40s, and I read those, and that took me into the journey in the library and like being curious about technology. But he bought me a guitar when I was 10, and
Nice.
I started playing it, and I found another friend in school played guitar too, and we'd play guitar together 2 or 3 hours a day. When we were 15, put together a project and said, our goal is to get a record deal. And so we would go out and produce shows, and we were playing bars when we were like 16 years old and whatnot. And me and the other guitar player went into college, and we were both in the tech space. And after our first year, quit, because right after I got into my fraternity, a week later, I found out from our manager that we got a distribution deal. So we hit the road, and we'd spend like 250 days a year on the road. But it was wild. Like we were like 18 years old in a tour bus, traveling all across the country, getting to play with and open up for people like Aerosmith, Stone Temple Pilots, 311 Live, the Spin Doctors, Violent Femmes, and then my favorite, Blue Oyster Cult. This was pre the Cal. This is like 95, in that range. But I learned something really important, a lot about humans and creativity and high performance teams. And so like there's a big difference between the Beatles and 4 people that can play Beatles songs. The power, the flow, the trust, the creativity required to emulate something is radically different than what it is to create something. And like, I really took that deeply with me into thinking about creativity and human performance and innovation. And I use metaphors with many of my team members are musicians. So we say, let's have a jam session. Where's the head, meaning the top of the song? Like, let's get back on track, whatever the convo is. Improv is everything. Like, there's a great t-shirt out there, MacGyver School of Engineering. Like, it looks like an alma mater t-shirt like you get from any university. And it's phrases, improvise or die.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's really interesting you bring up the creativity aspect. I do tell people, because a lot of people think of when it comes to technology that's a very hard, not difficult hard, but hard science type of a thing, right? And it's not very squishy, but really the real work, the people who are good at, leveraging technology to solve problems, they are the creative people, right? And the hard side stuff is obviously important, but the real people that I see thriving in the industry and doing a great job are those creative type folks, the creative problem solvers, and everybody's got they're gonna have a guitar hanging behind them, or they cook, or they do woodworking. There's a lot of creativity in I interview a lot of people. You hear the hobbies; those are the big ones, right? Anyway, I love that you pointed that out, because you don't hear enough people talking about that. It really is a creative endeavor.
The arts are kind of the key to the future. I mean, we can learn a lot from music. We can learn from magic, which is what my TEDx talk is. Hruska changes magic. If you want to dig into that, what can leaders learn about that? But we can learn a ton from like culinary and art space. I have a friend that she's working on framing her dissertation for her PhD program, and it's all about what can we take from arts leadership to apply to organizational leadership. And I think that's a fascinating topic.
And I think the two-letter acronym that we won't mention as much as we mention humans on this episode, it's interesting. It's bringing up that, kind of the arts and the humanities and kind of that softer side of humanity itself is going to be the thing that's more important, because kind of those mechanical, what we would consider kind of the hard side of what we do are being taken over by the robots, if you will. But that softer side, that creative, that the art side, as you're talking about, that's going to be the kind of the thing of the future, as you're saying, that people are striving for that now that all the the mechanical parts are being taken care of by robots.
Well, the art piece is so interesting. I was giving a talk recently, and a woman who was very apprehensive about AI initially told the entire audience that she used AI to design her and she's an artist, and she used AI to design her tattoo, and then she actually got the tattoo. I was briefing a state rep here in Pennsylvania about AI and workforce recently. And I'm a musician. I write songs, I arrange songs, I'm very deliberate and methodical about that. But I use AI to think with for writing music or coming up with concepts. But my state rep was telling me, he said, "Oh, have you seen this tool? I wrote 3 songs over the weekend." I said, "I didn't know you played any music." He said, I don't. So like the barrier for creativity for those people that like never learn to play, like someone might look at that as a musician and say, ooh, poo poo, right? But I look at that and say, that's cool. Like he found a way to harness creative discovery with a tool to make something that gave him joy in some ways. And like, that's the good dopamine side of AI, where we're creating something we never could. And we're thinking not with it, but we're performing through it as like a performative lens in some ways. And so like that stuff like that kind of gets me excited.
Yeah. I think it's opening up the doors to people to express themselves in ways that they, it might take 5 years of diving into some thing to learn how to do it, like play a guitar or whatever the case may be, or learn how to code. Right? You can create a website now and those sort of things. But there's a lot of things that AI can help us with. To be able to express ourselves in ways that we did not have that ability before. Maybe I can finally learn how to play guitar. Always wanted to.
Well, it's fascinating. So last week I was at a neighbor's party, and their son said something to me about real estate. And I said, well, what do you want to do? He said, well, he works a blue collar job. He said, I want to save up and I want to buy a house and maybe buy another house. Buy another house. I said, what do you really want to do though? He said, well, I want passive income in 15 years. I said, okay, cool. Download Claude right now. I'll be back. So he downloaded Claude. I gave him a couple seedling prompts and he just started flying through. He's a nice kid, and I had to change my hot water heater out, and I had the extra one in the garage. So he came over yesterday to pick it up and take it and scrap it for me. And I said, come in. I want to show you something. And I walked him through Claude building a pro forma, Claude building the slide deck for him, Claude building the documentation that he needs to take to the bank. And then we built and modeled out his entire portfolio strategy for 15 years. And like his face was melting, but he also saw the joy of like, wow, I see my vision, and now I know how to pay attention to my attention and think about my thinking right now so that I can get to that 15-year vision, basically. And like, that's the big unlock, is that people want to do things can now do the things because they have the support tools, and they don't necessarily need to go find 50 people to work with or screw around for 6 years to figure it out. Like, he's on it. Like today he's looking for properties, and like next week he's meeting with the banker. So like
nice.
in 10 days, and he's 21 years old. I mean, it's amazing. And like, these are the future entrepreneurs. As we have the job wars or the model wars or all the chaos that's going on, I think there's an emergence of people that say, you know what, I'm going to do one thing and I'm going to transition to another. And I think that's a really interesting pattern.
I think I'm getting sick of myself saying it, but I hear myself saying the calculus has changed. The calculus has changed over and over again. I've been saying it for like, the last year, I think. But like, I really don't think we've recalibrated our brains to think in this way. Like that, like when you think of like, oh my gosh, putting together a 15-year plan and this is where I want to have passive income and all these things. My default, I've been around for more years than him, so I'm probably a little more jaded, but it'd be like, oh my gosh, that feels like that's a lot of stuff, and that's just overwhelming to me. But I know I've used Claude just like you. I know what it can do, but I still don't like. That's not my knee jerk. Like that's not my default to reach and think for that about that in that way. It's going to be interesting once kind of this settles and people that is their default mode. How much cool stuff we really can do, right? And just it unlocks that writer's block. Any of that, any hesitation to do things. I think it's going to unlock a lot of that.
So, as a human, we have human intelligence. We measure this with IQ, with EQ, with other things. But when we
Mhm.
start to work with AI, if we're doing it the right way, something new emerges, and you hear this term in the market, AIQ, and many people think that's artificial intelligence quotient. I tend to think about that, and that's the person and how they use AI. I tend to think about that as the authentic intelligence quotient. If you're using AI the right way and you're using it for the right things, then something new starts to emerge, which is your higher level of intelligence because you're using the mirror in a really good way because it is a mirror. If you don't have
Mhm.
clarity, it doesn't have clarity. If you have confidence, it will get confidence in some ways. And the only way to increase your AIQ really is to think AI first. There's a really awesome and terrible plugin for Chrome that when you type in your address bar will automatically send you to ChatGPT. Now, why do we Google something? We've been trained to Google something because we think about what we want to do, what our intent is, and we determine the fuzzy thing that sits in front of us, and that's what we Google. What it makes you think about is what is my real question behind my question and my outcome behind that. And so it
Mhm.
really forces a behavior change. So if you want to go AI first, download that plugin and dive in. I mean, you can always hit Geo and Google will pop up, but
Yeah.
otherwise, just start freeform typing, and then all of a sudden you have enough context that you can really start to jam with it. What I've found is that 80% of the time, I don't want to Google something. I want to start working through an idea in some ways. Only 20% of the time do I actually want some just general information. And Gemini is really good about doing that. Perplexity is obviously good too, but it's an interesting behavioral shift.
Yeah. I've definitely enjoyed like as you said, like Gemini will have that default kind of AI answer up top. I definitely find myself enjoying that more than the old, the Google thing. Yeah. And there's every now and then I just need to know the phone number of a, store or something like that. Yeah. Or, I mean, who calls anyone anymore, right? But, those sort of things. Where is that store again? Every now and then I need that level, but most of the time I find myself, as you're saying, that's not what I'm really trying to do. I'm not looking for that. Like, just give me the fact that I'm looking up. I'm really working through an idea, and I'm going to check that out for sure. This notion in your bio where you talked about human better, and we've hinted at it already some, but I want to really peel the onion on that one. Double click into that, as the managers say, right? Let's peel that back a little bit and understand what your vision there, and tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a good book I think worth reading if you want to think about technology and trends. It's called What Technology Wants, and it's by Kevin Kelly, the co-founder of Wired Magazine. In that book, and a friend of mine who's doing innovation work at Autodesk recommended it to me. And in that book, Kevin Kelly basically says technology is another animal kingdom on Earth, which is a really interesting posit, right? It's like he thinks about it this way that it's going to evolve, right? Where's technology at? It's hidden in our biome, it's hidden in our geology, like the secrets that we're pulling from to make things. Like there are clues. It's like a scavenger hunt in some ways. And so if you think about it, Alexander Graham Bell and someone else patented the phone on the same day. But where was that idea? It's in the air, right? So if you think like about words are representative of ideas. And so when we have enough words that people are using in common, new ideas emerge. And my anthropologist friend Dan calls this, it's in the air. It's just like pulling it out of there like a jam session in some way. So in that book, he says technology is just an eventuality, but it only wants to do two things. It wants to connect to us more, and it wants to connect us together better. And I really think that's fascinating because what we're seeing as like the typical trend, we're connecting to AI more and more and more and more. But is it connecting us better together? And that's when I think about the concept of human better. I really think about that second piece, which is, am I having a better conversation with my CTO at a breakfast meeting because I worked with AI in some ways to develop the best three questions, even though I've worked with my CTO for like 10 years and I know well, and we're in the same context bubble. But I call my AI mentor and talk to him before that conversation, have three great questions to drive. So I'm like actively seeking, like, how do we come together, better as humans? AI is speeding up a lot of things, but I'm sure that many people have received 150 pages of AI slop. That
Mm,
doesn't speed anything up. And
right.
we have studies from UPenn and Harvard that say one person plus AI is about as good as two humans. But when two humans are working together with AI, it's even better. And I think that's an important accountability partnership, like a triad in some ways. I mean, the days of 12 and 16-person teams for creative problem solving, I think are almost out the window or going to be out the window. It's two or three people working with and through AI to determine something using that human judgment piece. In that case, I was giving a workshop to a global manufacturer and 4 out of 28 people had ever used AI. It was really cool because their eyes opened to the possibilities. Put them
Hmm.
out into their 4 groups for the workshop. And I saw 2 of the people that I knew were using AI looking at their phones back and forth. And they were all excited. I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We're using ChatGPT." I said, "How?" They said, "We asked it to give us ideas for AI in manufacturing." I said, "Stop. Start over. Pretend a 20-year-old intern named Sam just walked in. Tell Sam what your goal is. Tell Sam your backgrounds. Tell Sam your tenure at the company and ask Sam to ask you questions to help you think about the future." And they looked sideways dog head. And I said, and they tried it. And I went and I seated all the other groups. And so it was like an hour and they were eating lunch and doing this. They generated across the 4 teams, 157 ideas for the future. When we were doing the checkout design thinking way, people said things like, we did more over lunch to think about our future than we did in the last 10 years since I've been here. And
Oh my goodness.
that is human. That's human better, right? That's where
Okay.
people came together. They're supported by AI.
And what do you think AI is doing there? Is it making connections to things that we may not readily make? Is it helping us maybe understand one another better? Like I think of well, this is what Bob may be thinking right now. What are those things that it's assisting us with in order to help us communicate with each other better and making human better?
Yeah, Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. He talks about the
Hmm.
human having 2 systems. System one, our quick improv brain. System two, evaluative analytical. If you say write a 500-word blog about the benefits of dry aging beef, I could do it. Can take an hour and 15 minutes. But the human better question is, how do we tap our system one? How do we tap our collective system one? There's a thinker in Canada named Michael Dila, and he talks about system three, which is conversation as technology itself. I mean, you think about it, language is the most powerful technology that humans have invented. It makes us, but it also breaks us, right? And what is language? Language is agreement about really almost what the future is in some ways from our collective past. And that's how we make meaning together. So in what Dila talks about with system three conversation, he calls it innovation parkour. You familiar with parkour? We're running,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but imagine doing that as a troop, right? As your team, you're running through this problem space together and scaffolding. And you've been in conversations where someone's talking to you and you're talking with each other, but you're not talking with each other.
Hmm.
If I say the word priority to a sales team and an engineering team at the same time, that word does not mean the same thing.
Right.
And so when we're in that right sort of like system three stuff, there's one conversation that we're all participating in and it's not sided in any ways. And so one of the tech pieces that we have internally that we play with is we have a listener and we're like, "Hey, what do you think?" And it chimes in and it gives you like that poke in the brain of like a reframe of what's going on. So like the future is really about humans talking better together and AI doing the things that it does, but the judgment, clarity, discernment, decision quality, that can't lie in machines, or else we'll have a very machine rich future. We need those things to rely on us and us agreeing with each other and having great system three conversations. And that's part of human better also.
Hmm. thinking through that. So I'm thinking of like, I don't know, I can't help but land at jazz, right? Jazz musicians, how they play off one another and you're riffing and everything. Um, and the human conversation is happening, but AI is paying attention as almost an observer, and you're leveraging the AI as pattern recognition, or maybe you're thinking about these three things very concretely, but you considered that sort of a how it augments the conversation. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Look, there's a convergence between jazz improv, right? The way that SEAL Team 6 operates,
Mhm.
a beehive, an ant colony, and this idea of System 3, because it is that, and just pure like comedy improv, like at the same time, like there's that yes and element that's
Right.
there.
Hmm.
When you have the right teams, you have the right harmony. Like I said, 4 people to create versus 4 people to emulate. Like if you're going to push new boundaries, this is going to be the imperative for teams in the future. This is where the most high performing teams will build the most high performing products, the most high performing companies. And there's going to be a huge difference between the people that are AI first, System 3 conversational, AI supported, but really good with decision quality. Those teams are going to be able to move at an unprecedented speed. And the distance between them and any of the competitors will increase on a daily basis. You said calculus earlier, right? So we're
Hmm.
living the derivative of velocity is the change of that is acceleration. The rate of
Okay.
change acceleration is called the jerk, right? That's actually what kills you when your car hits a bridge or something like that. And the change of the rate of acceleration is changing at an unprecedented rate. So we're literally living in the largest jerk factor of technology and humanity. The companies that are really driving many business models just wants to connect to us more and more and more. Let me help you write that document. Let me help you write this. Look, Gemini's in the corner. I'm right here. I can do that. You Google this, but I'm going to Gemini you. Like it's very rapid. It's the moment to stop and think, because in the future, there's going to be two kinds of leaders. One that says, I'm all EBITDA focused. And we've seen layoffs happening, 20%, 10%, 6,000
Mhm.
people, 40% along the way. We actually live in a world where it's easier for two former employees to hop in a camper van, build a company and a product before they actually get a job interview anywhere. I mean, so this is part of the jerk factor, right? We're living in the jerk.
Not like the movie with Steve Martin, though, right?
Well, it would be maybe they need to do the jerk dose.
That would be a great part too. I don't know if he could pull it off at his age, but I don't know. I don't know who.
Baseballs is coming out. Get ready.
Yeah, the search for more money. I don't know what they're calling it, but yeah, that was promised to us that they were going to do it, and we're going to get it. I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic about it, but yeah. Okay, so you've done some really cool stuff. You had a brief or you had a stint at NIST. Is that correct? Did I remember reading about that? Is that right?
National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is a Department of Commerce sort of subsidiary.
Okay. What
Yeah.
did you do there?
I was in the material science space. So, all right, this will give you an example. Department of Commerce, DOC,
Uh-huh.
NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, Building and Fire Research Laboratory, BFRL, Construction Materials Reference Laboratory, CMRL, American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials Materials Reference Laboratory, AMRL. That is how you unpack bureaucracy.
Okay.
Like,
That's your
so,
hierarchy there, huh?
yeah. So I was in the material science space and transportation and associated with building standards and maintaining standards associated with materials testing for all. If you do federal work, you got to be accredited, and the accreditation body was connected to our laboratory. So we would go out and people would inspect laboratories all across the United States. A couple thousand laboratories had to be visited every 24 months. And I did that job for a little bit, but then I helped to optimize that process. The other thing that we did was the most awesome racket ever. And like I say that with love, we would buy truckloads of dirt and then we would bag up the dirt. It wasn't a reference sample. It was just dirt. And then we would send it out to all the labs and they would test it and they would produce two results. And then we would show them that like interlaboratory reliability and like a lot of statistical stuff, but literally it was selling $500 bags of dirt.
And this was almost like a calibration.
Yeah,
to
to
make sure that
show.
everybody's coming to the same answers or whatever?
To show like how close your methods and your machines were actually producing something. So I was there for like 4 years. I had a lovely mentor, Pete, and he kind of let me transform the organization. I moved quickly into this quality and information systems manager jobs and completely re-architected every single process inside the organization, including the language, because language is important. Like we were inspectors. People would fear the inspector. You just literally shut down their laboratory and and that would stop millions of dollars a day of construction. So we
Uh-huh.
transitioned to assessors, right? Softer
Yeah.
language, right? Along the way. But it was fantastic. I was able to incubate my company there and build software development process. The most awesome thing was there were 3,000 PhDs, and my superpower is I don't run out of questions. And I had a terrible habit. I smoked cigarettes at the time. I was just out of college and whatnot. But it was great because there were a lot of interesting scientists that smoked cigarettes. And so I walked all around campus and I would smoke cigarettes with everybody and have that conversation for like 6, 8 minutes of, hey, what are you working on? What was the most recent breakthrough in your domain? What was that person's relationship to it? And what's next? What's coming up? And 9 times out of 10, the game changer in any domain was not the person working on the edge. It's our expert blindness, right? What
Yeah.
makes us sort of breaks us. And it was that naively curious person that said, how do you know that you know that? Why do you think that you think that? Like those meta questions. And like that helped me to really understand the patterns of innovation. They also had a descendant of the tree of Sir Isaac Newton that he sat under with the apple.
Yeah.
And I used to hang out and sit under that tree. It was awesome. I mean, I got to read books and meet great people and ask questions and learn about the range of different scientific innovations that were there because they did everything from nuclear particle accelerator stuff to duck reproduction. I knew you were drinking.
That's quite
I
a
knew you were drinking
spectrum.
coffee. That's why I used that
Yeah,
example.
yeah, you caught me off guard. I was taking a drink of water at the time. That was wow. Okay, so that's quite the spectrum. And to what end on the duck reproduction? What's that for?
Not a great area of interest for me, but was
Yeah.
was because I was in the Building Fire Research Laboratory about a week after the World Trade Center terrible tragedy. Truckloads, and I worked as an iron worker in college, so I
Hmm.
did joists and welding and all the good stuff. But truckloads, flatbeds started coming with the World Trade Center steel, and our group did the metallurgical failure analysis on that and the modeling and simulation, and it was very surreal because I would look out in the yard behind us, and what looked like piles of spaghetti were actually bar joists. And like what looked like torn paper was like 2-inch thick steel plates. And it was an unbelievable view into what destruction is for things that we just take for granted. Oh yeah, that
Sure.
joist works, that beam works, it's all good. But when it doesn't, it's really wild.
Wow, man, that is quite a journey. I love the smoking thing. The smoking is very bad for your body, but it sounds like it was pretty good for your brain.
It
Yeah.
was good for social learning. And it's trust, right? Like you don't know what you have in common with someone when you walk up to them, other than you like to eat food every day, ideally. Like that's the only thing
Hmm.
we all share in common, like no matter
Yeah.
where you go in the world. And we're always looking for that. So it gives you that one common thing. Like when I meet a guitar player, like I was meeting with some science team at a university at a lab, and everyone was late. And the person that I met was also left-handed and also played piano right-handed. And I can't, terrible piano player because I want to play like this, the opposite way. As soon
You
as,
cross your
as
hands.
soon as when you meet someone new, you find that new thing. Smoking was that thing. I never would have thought that. I never would have given my younger self that advice. Smoke cigarettes, meet scientists. That doesn't make sense.
Pick up smoking, kids. It's good for you. No, just kidding. But I had my wife said something to me the other day. She's like, I was reading about like they're identifying now nicotine actually has some beneficial impacts, and it is in the brain, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Nootropic value.
Yeah.
Nicotine and caffeine actually they're some of the most powerful nootropics available to us. There are other things, and I won't get into the carnitines and other things, but yeah, it can actually increase your creativity, which is pretty wild. Everyone's running
That
around
is pretty.
caffeinated and nicotined.
That's right. Well, it's run the world for a long time.
Like AI, nicotine, and caffeine, like that just releases more dopamine than anything else. It must be like the effervescing, like sort of like mushroom cloud.
Okay, I have a word written down here, and I hope I'm saying it right. Apocaloptimist.
You
That I
nailed
remember from our prep call. Did I nail it? Okay,
it.
yeah, that's a tough one. Okay, I got it. You mentioned it during the prep call, and I wrote it down, and I want to make sure we talked about it because I want to hear more about this. I'd never heard the word, but it's intriguing. So tell me more about this.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. A number of years ago, I started like a Saturday morning sort of coffee thing with some of my favorite scientists that didn't know each other, and it's really turned into something interesting. But it was probably a year after GPT 3.5 was released, and like one of the Saturday mornings, there's whatever zeitgeist news happened that week. One of the Saturday mornings, the three PhDs came in, very sad, very somber, and I said, "What's wrong, guys?" They said, it's all going. It's all going to be gone. The world is over. AI is going to eat the world. And they were just terribly distraught. And I said, guys, I won't disagree that there's a powerful force that's taking us into a new world in some ways, but I
Uh-huh.
need you to agree that we're going to work together and do the greatest good that we can to hold human high in this. And that's kind of where the seed was for this human better stuff. And so there's a documentary film that was at Sundance, and it's called Apocaloptimist. And sounds like a dinosaur to me when I say it, like Apocalyptosaurus or something, but it's hard to
It
say.
does.
But it's the idea that like AI is going to radically transform everything, and it's going to do some awesome things on one end, and it's going to do some really not awesome things on the other end. And these are just eventualities that this technology as an animal kingdom is going to wash over the earth that we're in. But I'm an optimist about it. So I recognize there are apocalyptic things that are out in front of us. My team and I joke around. We're like, the code name is SC, Sarah Connor. So like we'll be at a conference and talking to someone, like maybe like a chief human resource person, talking about the future, and like just listening to the words that we're saying, we're like, we should not really have the words in the conversation that we want in the conversation, because we look like Sarah Connor shaking the fence and the kids are playing on the playground and they're completely oblivious. But we see it. And like the people that work on the edge of tech, like, whether it's Shapiro or Molly, there's tons of people that are saying there's a radical shift and erosion that's happening in the economy. And I think that to not see that coming is a bit naive, but to not espouse I'm going to focus on humans. I'm going to focus on, the leaders are going to think about EBITDA, and there's going to be leaders that think about humans. The more people that we can have leading with a human first attitude in the age of AI, the better. And those are the apocalyptimists.
I love it. I was just having a conversation the other day, and we've talked about this topic on the podcast before. But I think my view on this is, as you said, the short-sighted folks, the people who are focused on the now, the EBITDA and all of that, right? Those are the ones laying people off, and we can look at it and we can say, okay, we've been able to have a steady ability to produce things, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're producing, but some output of something has been roughly the same for many years for companies. And then they look at it and they say, wow, I can continue making that same thing with AI cheaper, so I can get rid of all the humans. But the companies of the future, I think where you're headed and the way I tend to think about it is more of like, why don't we increase? Let's not settle for just producing the same old stuff, right? That we've always done. Like some of those big problems that we were like, man, I wish we could solve blah, 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 whatever, the world hunger, whatever you want to call it, like some of those big problems. And we've shied away from them because they're cost prohibitive or it's just hard. It's difficult to do. Why not use this superpower of AI to go tackle some of that stuff? Don't settle for the same old crap we've been doing for 30 years in software engineering. Let's build those hard things now that we can, and don't settle for just building the same old websites and the stuff. That's why I think people, again, it's that recalibration of our brain, the calculus changing. We haven't. I don't think we've reached that aha moment, at least not to a critical mass level yet, that everybody's like, oh, you mean we could shake off this? I wrote an article about it. The analogies probably a very overused one, but it was about the baby elephant analogy where you put the chain on the baby elephant's ankle and they know they can't run away when they're babies. And then they get to be adults. That chain's not there anymore. Even if it is, they can snap it like nothing, but they don't. They still, it's the same behavior. So I think the article was entitled "The Chain Is Gone," and that's where we are right now as an industry. We just don't know it. That chain is not here. Those limitations we've had in the past, they are no longer here. We haven't shaken that chain away, in our brains yet. I think. I don't know. That's kind of how I think about it. I think the companies we're going to be talking about in the future, 50 to 100 years down the road, those are going to be the ones like you're talking about that are looking at humans and not just like, hey, let's just fire everyone and make the same old crap for cheaper, right? So I don't know. That's my soapbox for the day.
No, I love it. The analogy that I use is the fruit flies analogy. The jar full of fruit flies and the lid. You take the lid off, they don't fly out of the jar. It's
okay, all right, that's a good one. Yeah,
sort of the
I
same
like
thing.
it.
The other one is, I don't know, do you know about the monkeys, the fire hose, the ladder, and the banana?
Oh yeah, the angry monkey story. I've told that one a ton. Yes.
Yeah, I like that, but like, I think we're only limited by our creativity and our imagination, and
Yeah.
that's something that our education system has done a really good job of suppressing, generally. Uh,
Yeah, I agree.
and we also, I mean, like, I'll just go back to the arts, like, it's the creativity in which we approach things. I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, was a conference, and my friend Megan, who's recognized in the learning tech community, said, "I'm divorced. I haven't been on a date in 9 years. Can you build an agent that I can date?" And I said, "How about this? How about we get 5 teams and we'll each build an agent and you speed date them on stage?" And and we did it. We added to the conference schedule, and it was funny as hell. And we wrote some papers and some articles and some other stuff about it. But like, when I coded my agent, the language that I used was, "You're a nerdy, charismatic, witty cowboy that espouses the most interesting man in the world vibe without being over boastful." That's very specific language that you would use to like cast a character, cast an actor in some ways.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, this is where like we have to use creativity and imagination, to approach these things. And so the term that, a couple terms are human AI sandwich, right? And so, like, there's no world in which I just hammer AI and go, "Yeah, I figured it out." That world starts with me and human having a conversation and saying, "Cool, what are the things we need to think about? What are the HMW or how might we questions? What are those? Cool. I'm going to go work with my AI and you're going to go work with yours. Then we're going to come back together and then we're going to fold in the cheese." If you've seen Schitt's Creek before, I love, "David, fold in the cheese." Moira's just fantastic. But like, that's literally like, we're creating what, I have an improvisation language for the jam bands work that I've done in the past. We're creating improvisational language for how we human AI sandwich. Like, fold in the cheese, distill it, which is, and a lot of things from material testing, like sieve the idea. Like,
Yeah.
back of sieves is like, sieve the
Yeah.
idea, give me the bigs or give me the fines. Like, that's actually language that we use in our teams. Like, it's brand new language and with a brand new meaning, because if you took anyone else from that domain where that language is germane and you dropped them in, they would say like, "What is going on?" They would have no idea. It's a reframing of the language. And like, talking about it's in the air. This is where teams working in like system 3 coherence, where they're improvising together, where they're open to things and thinking consciously about the human AI sandwich and all the patterns that we can do. Because I'll then take that idea and I'll work with what I call my Baryon, which is art tech. I'll work with that. I'll have 3 or 4 conversations. It'll email me some seeds. And then I'll go to a mirror of my science team in GPT, and I'll get them to converse about it. Then I'll extract all that, build notebook LMs, send it to 7 different scientists, get their reflections in the work. So you're structuring asynchronous jam sessions. It's kind of the way I think about it. Like the augmented student of today will be like the news editor in the news floor of the future. Get me more of that. I like that. Combine that with this. And that's my daily work. Like, I'll have up to 11 or 12 different AI processes, running. Coworks building this, turning that into slides, taking this, red teaming this, Grok's doing something else, generating synthetic data. I mean, it gets to the point where you're like, I can't run any more machines as a human. And there is that limit. Like my team and I used to joke, like until 6 weeks ago, we're like, oh man, I broke it again. I broke it again. And I would say, if you're not the best race car driver, you won't destroy the car, basically. And so
Right.
you're not driving fast enough if the car doesn't break. You know, you got to push the boundaries. I'm not breaking anything anymore, except I'm breaking that. You know, what's the cognitive load that you can manage across the task switching in some ways. So it's really, we're limited by our creativity and our imagination because everything is literally possible. The question becomes, what is worth doing?
Hmm. I love that the way you kind of positioned AI almost like a connective tissue of sorts, right? It's not the thing; it's the thing that connects the things together. The human sandwich and that. I love that idea. That's really cool. Okay, all right. This man, we could talk for hours. This is really deep stuff, really cool stuff. But we have the next segment of the show that we need to get to. The next segment of our show is called "Ship It or Skip It."
Ship or skip, everybody we gotta tell us if you ship or skip.
And the idea here is we bring up a topic, we talk about is this a good thing, bad thing, hot or not. That's kind of our take on hot or not. You get the idea. First one I wanted to talk about, it's been kind of all the rage. You're seeing it on the socials. Is this notion of token maxing? What are your thoughts on token maxing?
Um, I don't know where it is. Well, there's letters in there, so we should put the no in token maxing.
Yes.
Skip it. I mean, all right, I'm a chef, you know, and in my kitchen, I use water to power the things that I make in my kitchen. Should I get rewarded for letting the water run all the time? No, no
Yeah,
way.
I just turned the sink on and just let her run.
You know, I was giving a talk to a bunch of manufacturers, and the first question from the audience was, "Is it environmentally responsible to use AI?" And I said, "It could be environmentally irresponsible very easily, and it can also be very easy to make it responsible. How? If you're using AI to organize your thinking and the thinking of the people around you, to organize your resources, assets, and processes better in your organization, and you're creating a net change, then that's good. If you're making cat pictures, that's dumb."
Yeah, I'm with you on the token maxing. I'm wanting to do like a talk on this. It's like, token maxing. It's not the flex you think it is, right? Like, okay, maybe you're trying to say I use AI a lot. Cool. All right, that's great. But I think simply like you're saying, so simply just like if I'm in the kitchen, if there is some correlation between the greatest chefs use the most water when they cook. So, but if I'm simply just turning on the faucet and letting it just go down the drain, that doesn't make me a better chef, right? Like that's just silly. I think that the thing that I don't want to see is the knee jerk reaction, because there seems to be a bit of a thing going on now where, of course, everybody saw token maxing and there's a reaction to it of like, okay, that's really stupid. And the counter now though is people are talking about, I want to be able to like optimize tokens. I'm like, okay, there's a danger there too. There's some balance here that we need to think about. Like the one thing I love about using AI for coding, for instance, is my screw ups are cheaper, and screwing up is learning. That's how you learn. I'm going to try this approach to solving this problem. I don't like that much. People would look at it, if I'm optimizing my token usage, they would see that rewrite as a problem. I don't see that as a problem. That's a learning effort, and that helps me be a better coder. That helps me write a better system. So I think we got to be really careful letting that kind of counter to token maxing come in too far. I'm really worried about that, because you know how organizations are like, no, we want to optimize our token usage, and then we're going to have people, well, I've got to think about every little thing and waterfall the problem in my head before I even talk to the AI, because I don't want to spend tokens. I'm so scared of that. No. Let the AI do the thing that it's good at. So I don't know.
There's a pendulum here, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everything is a pendulum at the end of the day.
Yeah. And we have, it's so funny, the tech industry, as you've been around long enough. We don't do half swings. We don't do things in half measures when it comes to swinging that pendulum. We're like, whoo, it's like the tether ball thing. You're going to get whacked in the head, right? Like we swing that pendulum wildly from one extreme to the other over and over and over again. And, eventually it settles, but then not just in time for the next big swing, the next big thing. Oh, it's microservices, it's cloud, it's cryptocurrencies, it's, whatever,
ML.
quantum. Yeah, ML. I mean, there's all of these rapid swings, and of course we take them to the extremes, and then we have to go counter extreme, and then finally we settle in the middle. It's just an uncanny pattern that we go through over and over and over again. And I don't know when we're going to learn our lesson that this, and maybe it's part of the learning process. I don't know, but it just feels like it's unnecessarily bipolar in nature, the way we handle technology. It just, I don't know. It just seems way like we could have learned better and have a little easier journey through some of these waves, I think.
Yeah, I agree, but I'll say this, and we'll see in 5 years if I'm right. This is radically different than any other wave that we've hit.
Agree. No, I do think it's a foundational change to how we work, I think to humanity, at the humanity level, I think it's really going to impact us as a species. I mean, it's really impactful. I do agree. In some senses, it's just another tool, but I don't think it can be reduced to that. I think we would be fooling ourselves if we just said, "Oh, it's just another tool," right?
The problem is, look, if we look at the onset of electricity, right? What electricity did was just unlock an entire new world for us. But what did humans do at the beginning of electricity? We said, let's light the night. I don't have one, and I know you don't either, but people have hair dryers. Now, the electric motor was there, right at electricity. It was right there. And no one was unhappy using a towel or letting their hair dry naturally in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, if you think about how many things you have to plug in the wall in your house, how many things you have to plug in the wall in your house, and then you can go use them somewhere else and they don't have to be plugged into the wall. That's a metaphor for what is AI going to plug into us and plug us together in that, Kevin Kelly metaphor in some ways. Like we haven't even seen what's possible. I mean, I've been in this space for like a dozen years in research, and like what I'm doing with Claude and Word and Excel and all that, I didn't see that coming at all.
Right.
It's like, it's completely non-obvious until you see it and you're like, whoa, okay, that makes sense. So we're at this moment where hair dryers and leaf blowers and there's all these other species metaphors, that are going to come about that like we won't even know they're possible until we see them, and then we'll say, how do we live without that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's not like it's like 6 months ago type stuff. Like it is accelerating, I think. So I think it's going to be fascinating. As you said, where are we going to be in 5 years, 3 years, whatever? It just, come on the show again in 5 years. We can talk about how right we were. All right. Next topic. AI for therapy and companionship. You alluded to a little bit about which agent can I date, but what do you think about this? This is this like that the Her movie and that sort of stuff?
Ship it responsibly, right?
Okay.
Look, there's an unmet need. Surgeon General says we have a loneliness epidemic. There are, in 2025, HBR said that the top uses of AI, of Gen AI, are therapy and companionship, finding purpose and meaning, planning my life, and then learning. So there's an unmet need. There's a compensating behavior. People are going to it. There's an alarming set of statistics that are out there related to people talking to Gen AI about mental health. And I mean, in my world, I've done years of intelligent tutoring, adaptive systems research, and it's why I'm building what I'm building, because I want to build something that is human first, non-judgmental, non-biasing, and really takes care of people in all of the ways possible, and genuinely gives a crap about the human. And that's a hard problem. And like, I know the frontier models are trying to chase that problem, but that's the problem that, I've worked to solve, and people are experiencing it, and it's cool to hear
it. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that I've heard these anecdotal, and I don't know the stats on it, but people are opening up to their agents and talking to their LLM tools, and using it for that sort of thing, right? Like not necessarily companionship, but to think through some of those like deep meaning things, like the search for meaning of who am I as a person, and what is my mission here on earth, right? And that's interesting. That why did we go to where we don't talk to other humans about that? I mean, we've been further and further isolated, so that's part of it, I guess. But I don't know. It is an interesting phenomenon that I do think, as you said, a non-judgment. Maybe it's kind of, is that taboo, or is it you worry about the judgmental aspect of somebody's response when you go to a human being, but you're not going to get that from the AI. Maybe that's so. I don't know. I think I like the idea of there being an outlet, but I'm with you that there needs to be, obviously there needs to be some balance there. That we want people to get the right help that they need, and not use that as a crutch and settling for suboptimal help if they really need real help. I guess I don't know. I'm rambling, but that's where I'm at.
No, it makes sense. The word that we use, that because I have computational linguistics team members, is a word that no one else uses, but it's called misprism. When we look at the world, we refract it, right? And we see what we think is the spectrum of the world in front of us, whether that's our present or past, or our future. What I'm doing in terms of responsible design in this space is what we call generative misprisming, which is asking that like question that makes you think about your thinking or pay attention to your attention, because when you shift your perspective, behind that are cognitive biases, blind spots, and conceptions. And this is where people as problem solvers is a great program, but a terrible implementation, because we often solve problems well before we understand them, and we create more problems in front of ourselves. And like the question behind the Googling, like, is really, what is the outcome that you're seeking? And problems are something that get thrown in front of us. Like literally, that's the root of the word, thrown in front of us. And you hear the language. People say, I'll get out of this. We'll get over this. We'll get through this. They're talking about, that obstacle in some ways. And like, I think that's what good coaching does. That's what good therapy does. That's what good mentorship does. That's what good friends do. And those are like fundamental things that I hold like really close to, what I'm building.
It's very cool. Yeah, I love that. People on the kind of the out on the edge of this AI thing, thinking about how do we leverage this for the betterment of humanity. That's a great mission and a great. I'm glad there are people looking into that and not just the EBITDA people, right? Nothing wrong with my CFO friends out there. I love you guys and gals, but let's take care of the humans.
We need more people to wear the apocaloptimist T-shirt.
If I can buy that, I'm going to buy one. I love it. That's fantastic. Okay. Final ship it or skip it is vibe coding. We've talked about this a lot on the show. I thought you had a very interesting story, and I wanted to hear. I thought the audience would enjoy hearing about it. Your vibe coding story with your friend.
The tale of two vibe coders. All right. So vibe coder one, part of an entrepreneur meetup I'm in, didn't see him for a while. Came in asking for help with his G to M and getting a marketing firm. And I said, you need a G to M. And it needs to be aligned with your tech stack and. So started to peel the onion on what he was doing. And I said, how did you make that choice? ChatGPT. Go down the rabbit hole a little further. How did you make that choice? ChatGPT. Said, wow, okay. We know AI is a mirror. And if we don't have clarity, it doesn't have clarity. He spent 6 months of drift going off course, built something that isn't really scalable with the service and delivery model that isn't scalable either. And I said, I can hook you up with a marketing firm. I can help you nail your GTM real quick. But if you sell what you're selling, you can't scale it. And your Coca LTV and like all these other metrics are just broken, because he wasn't considering the financial model, the business model, and the technical approach as that triad that we spiraled out, when we're doing an early stage company. He was just considering the technical approach and just complete drift and really a complete throwaway prototype. And it was wild. Another person in my group, Scrum Master, was an educator turned instructional systems designer and then Scrum Master, and had been coaching software teams. He's building crazy stuff right now. He's vibe coding things because he understands the problems in ed tech. He understands those ed tech systems that are there and FERPA and all the related things. So he has extreme domain knowledge, but he has domain knowledge about building software and building products. And he's cranking out amazing tools and building them in a weekend and getting them into schools the following week for testing and prototyping. So it's a huge unlock, for like the rental czar example earlier. Is like, if you know enough about your domain, what you really want to do, you have what I call zero excuses for not being able to actualize and do whatever you want. So I think vibe coding is a massive unlock. I've written code since I've been in second grade, but I'm cranking out prototypes for like super advanced scientific work in like 20 minutes that I would have had to deploy an R&D team, and it would have taken weeks of conversation and months of dev to do. And now I have something that, proves that working code trumps all theory.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they say vibe coding, again, this is one of the, an architect, so I say it depends, right? That's my answer for a lot of things. It depends on what your definition of vibe coding is, I guess, whenever this comes up for me. If it's uninitiated, just, that it's turtles all the way down a bunch of chat GPT decisions, as you said, right? That sort of path of trust blindly, uninitiated, they don't know any better about what good looks like when it's creating software. And you build and compound those bad decisions on one another over and over. That's what I'm fearful of when it comes to like vibe coding. You, as you said, you've been building software for many, many years. Putting an generative AI or an AI assisted engineering tool in your hands is a superpower. It is a lightning rod. It is lightning in a bottle. Whatever analogy you want to use, it is a superpower. I'm not trying to gatekeep anyone. I have to say that every time. And I don't. And I love that people can express themselves in new ways when it comes to helping people like enterprise products and putting something out in front of something you want them to pay for. I do think there's a bit of rigor that we owe it to our customers to put into these software products and all the security issues and all of that. It is going to get better over time, but I still think there's a bit of an art and creativity and experience that will help you to build even better things with AI. And then not, again, back to that, not settling for the same old crap. Yes, the layperson can absolutely build the same old crap we've been building for 30 years, but the initiated, the disciplined, the engineers out there with these tools, the sky's the limit of the type of problems they can tackle. So I don't know. It sounds gatekeepy. I don't mean it to be that way, but that's been my experience of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think it's an unlock for many. It's a distraction for others.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think
I like that.
it's a big unlock for a lot of people. And, I'm take an active role. I love the regional ecosystem. I'm here in Western Pennsylvania, and I reach out to contacts that are like the CEOs of manufacturers and say, hey man, you got to check this out. Read this article, try this thing. This is possible. And I really try to plant those seeds because it is a big unlock for non-technical leaders also.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, I think there are like creating dashboards, not having to be like, hey, data science person, can you go do me a query for this? I need to, get this information. I think that's being able to explore data more readily, I think is a big thing for our future. I think the leaders are able to do that now. I think those are some of the benefits for sure. I would agree with that.
Well, I mean, I've probably showed a dozen management teams like, hey, take your P&L and your balance sheet for your monthly management review. This is a human better connector, right? Feed it to Claude and ask it to make one management team review slide. And they're like, whoa, it's complete magic for them. But guess what? No one has to screw around doing analytics. Dump it in there, get the slide, have the conversation, move your company forward.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. I find myself doing screenshots of stuff all the time with Claude. Like I don't need to sift through all this data. You can help me hone in on things that are important. And yeah, it's a fantastic tool for stuff like that for sure. Okay. Those were great topics. We have our final segment of the show, which we call the lightning round.
It's time for the lightning round. Rapid fire.
So the lightning round, if you've not listened to the show, in case you're first tuning in, this is the meat and potatoes of this show. This is what people tune in for. You're in for a real treat if you've not listened to the lightning round before. All of the things we talked about before, they're okay, right? But this is the real deal. This is where the answers matter. You will be graded. We do have a system for scoring these answers. This is where it gets real, and I want to make sure that you're in a mental state right now. You've framed your brain. You've prepared yourself. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I could roll up my sleeves, but I don't have to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and again, some people, it's a bit jarring when we go through the preparation and we try to prepare them. They think, oh, this is just a lightning round. This isn't going to be anything serious. And then we hit them with the first question and they're taken aback by it sometimes. And so I just want to make sure you don't have that experience. Once you have a good experience with the lightning round, you sure you're ready?
I'm ready to be whooshed.
Okay. Why can't we tickle ourselves?
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that.
Okay.
It depends on what you mean by tickle. So I can't make myself laugh, but I can touch myself and create the sensation. So the question is, what is the level of fidelity of the signal of a tickle? So my definition of tickle and your definition of tickle, we might have ourselves a pickle here. So I think I can tickle myself.
We're writing a Dr. Seuss book as we speak. I love it. Okay. Are you a stale Sour Patch Kids kind of person or fresh circus peanuts?
Oh, stale Sour Patch takes me back to baseball.
Yeah.
Strange that fresh peanuts also takes me to baseball. Stadium baseball versus Pee Wee baseball. Yeah. So I'll go with the Sour Patch for nostalgia.
Okay. What's the type of triangle with two equal sides called again?
Isosceles.
Okay. Again, we have a scoring algorithm. I can't tell you if you're right or wrong. Some of these I don't even know.
My knee-jerk reaction was to say dodecahedron no matter what, as soon as I heard shake, because that's my favorite.
I like that one. That's a really good one. Are you a dark chocolate or milk chocolate kind of person?
I transitioned from milk to dark. There's something beautiful about dark chocolate. I had the opportunity to do a chocolate tasting with one of those AI startups that I mentor, and I learned all about chocolate tasting, and I just fell in love with dark chocolate.
Is it as rigorous as like wine tasting? Do they have? Is it the same sort of like level of like depth?
Very, very similar. Like you don't chew your chocolate. There's a certain way to taste it. There's a certain way to prepare to taste it. There's a certain way to experience the tasting of it. And there's a certain way to get ready for the next chocolate.
Oh my goodness.
I learned the skill.
Yeah, I used to have that's a cool.
Now I'm doing.
I make fun of because I had a buddy. I'm gonna call him out too. Mark Frazier. When we would go out to restaurants, he's very much of a wine guy, and he would do that thing where he sticks his nose down in the glass and swirl it and all that stuff, and it just cracked me up. And I hate it because I don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? Like that's I don't have that skill, so I got to make fun because I don't have the skill. But it is fascinating to me that people who can pick out just from the smell like where it was made and all it's that stuff's fascinating to me. Sorry, Mark, I'm gonna call you out. He's not listening to this show.
I would be proud.
He would. He would make fun of me for not being a wine person. On a scale of 1 to 10, and feel free to go outside the bounds of this, even though I'm giving you these bounds. How much do you like garlic?
111.
Yeah, that's fair.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what a gift. I mean, there's a garlic festival near my house here in the summertime, and I can get Korean garlic and Thai garlic and Russian garlic and different Italian garlics. It's garlic's so beautiful. I think that I would love a cologne that smelled like garlic, except no one would like me.
Well, but it would be good for you. You would enjoy it. So I'm fine with that. I would wonder, what would the first person who tasted garlic, wouldn't it be great to be able to go back in time and see their face, that reaction of whoever the first person was, pick that thing up off the ground or whatever. And oh, wow. That'd be fascinating.
It would be. I don't know. Like, I mean, if you look at garlic and you're like, oh, I dug this out of the ground. Maybe I should eat it. And then they ate it and they're like, well, maybe we should reduce it in some olive oil and then use that as a base to cook with. The evolution of like who ate what first and then figured out what to do with it is fascinating. That's humans and technology, though.
I saw a thing one time and it said, I bet the first person who drank like cow's milk probably did a lot of other weird stuff too. Gotta be. And I think that rings true. When was the last time you stayed up past 4 a.m.?
I was going to say Tuesday, but I was up till 2 and I got up at 4:30 a.m. So that was around Christmas. Around Christmas,
Yeah.
Musician friends that come into town.
Oh, yeah.
And, once you start playing and storytelling in between songs and playing and storytelling in between songs, eventually you have a wife the next day that says, are you sure you guys wanted to jam that long? Meaning you kept me up all night.
Yeah, exactly. Are you sure that was a bright idea? And then there's no sympathy the next day. You're not going to get sympathy for that at all. You just got to. Yeah, exactly.
Of course it is.
So here's one that we've asked a lot of folks. I think pretty much every guest for the last, I don't know, so many months, 4 or 5 months or something like that. Do you like the smell of gasoline?
I do. Gasoline smells like grandpa. Both of my grandpas like diesel, gasoline. Like I can remember being in their garage and like that smell of gasoline. And I kind of miss it. Like, maybe this is too much information, but occasionally I'll take my wife's car and drive the gas station and pump gas because I have an electric car and I just miss gas. Like I miss that, like, because like gas stations smell like grandpa.
And that's been the really interesting, because the first time I asked that question, because I have this like list of questions and I just kind of thumb through them. And I mean, it's very rigorous, of course. There's a plan, you get what I mean, what I was trying to say. But when I asked that question the first time, I thought the person would be like, oh my gosh, no, right? But then I was thinking to myself, I actually like the smell. Like, that is kind of weird. And they were pretty much every person except for like, I think 2 so far have said, yes, I like the smell of gasoline. Some people were surprised by the fact that they thought about it for a second. They're like, oh my God, yeah, I do. I actually do. But most of it's around the exact same thing you said. It reminds me of something else. It reminds me of grandpa. It reminds me of, we would take the boat out on the weekends in the summer when I was, in middle school, those sort of things, filling up the boat at the dock. And, but yeah, it was always kind of an associative thing, not necessarily always like, I want to smell the gasoline, but it was a memory. Maybe it's because it's so pungent or potent of a smell that it unlocks those memories or something.
That's interesting. You should not ask the question, do you like the smell of gold paint? Because that's the common paint that people huff.
One of my daughter's favorite jokes is what's blue and smells like red paint? Blue paint. It's a terrible joke. Anyway, that's a dad joke for you. I didn't get any laugh out of that. That's she also has her favorite. What did one snowman say to the other? Do you smell carrots? That's a good one.
That's reusable material right there.
I like that one. Yeah, that's a really good one. She told that for many years as a little bitty kid. What was your last Halloween costume you ever wore?
Pirate.
Solid.
Yeah,
solid.
Pirates. I like teen costumes. Like I was with some friends in Vegas for Halloween. We dressed as a gang of ninjas. It's very comedic, and because you can walk around and like do all kinds of poses, even with they see you have no weapons, and they see that maybe not everyone's that fit, so like you can even get up behind them and make funny moves and whatnot. Yeah, that's it. Gang costumes like that are great.
Yeah, you can get everybody involved in the motif. Okay, I like it. Okay, and let's see. We're gonna have to do one final question here. Another scale of 1 to 10. Again, these are artificial boundaries. These are guardrails, the 1 to 10 thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at wiffle ball?
1.237.
1.237. Yeah, that's right around the average, I think, if I recall. So it's not bad. I think
I should be
It's
less.
a tough sport. Yeah, it's tough. And the people who are really good at it, it's a thing to behold. Especially the pitchers, right? When they can make that ball move like they can, it is quite a sight for sure.
Yeah, the World Wiffle Ball
Okay.
Series, I can't wait for it this year. I'm always
Yeah.
my favorite to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been great. Again, we will get your score to you over time. Eventually, after we run it through, I mean, there's a model, reinforcement learning involved or something. I don't know. It's very complex. They don't tell me all the details, and rightly so, because I have to deliver the questions, and I don't want to slant the answers. But yeah, we'll get it to you. We'll let you know how you did. I feel like you did pretty well, though, and just thinking through the answer, I feel good about this one.
I'm happy that I was able to complete the assignment.
Yeah. I think you made it through unscathed. So congratulations. Hats off to you. All right. In closing, anything you've got coming up? Is your company doing anything? So going to be at a conference or anything you wanted to share? Like, hey, go check us out here. Anything like that?
I'm going to be in Chicago coming up here May 21st actually Milwaukee at the ELE, the e-learning exchange conference there. I'll be in Houston if anyone's going to the G20 summit at the beginning of June. But we just released last week at Baryons.com. We just came out of stealth mode with our enterprise and teams offering. We've been kind of secret and doing special things behind the scenes with special people. And now we're saying, hey, if you want to be human first and human better, I've got the easy button for you. So I encourage people to check out Baryons.com and just try it. It's free.
Okay. And that's BARYONS.com. Baryons. I'm going to check that out myself. And the Milwaukee, you're going to be up there for the e-learning conference, you said. You feel like Canvas is going to make a big splash this year?
Canvas?
Didn't they just have a big issue with a breach or something like that?
Everyone's going to have big issues with breaches.
Yeah, that's true. And a few minutes, this glass wing that I was just talking to a client this morning, that whole glass wing thing, that is scaring a lot of people. And I am worried about bogging down the industry with this, the mythos and all, once it comes out, a little worried about that. But anyway, well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Really enjoyed it. Love to have you back on anytime. I'm sure there were some rocks we didn't get to, overturn and explore those topics, but I'd love to maybe have you on again. Thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for taking me to corners of places I haven't talked about for a while. It was very enjoyable, and for getting me to think about gasoline. I mean, that's
Yeah, that one. I'm telling you, it has caught some folks off guard. They're they think about it and they're like, "Wow, I do like gasoline, Sam. I am." This has been a great show. Thanks for joining us again. Really enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like to get in touch with us here at the /, drop us a line at the /@caliberty.com. See you next time. The / podcast is created by Caliberty. The / team is director and producer Ryan Wilson, editing by Steve Baradelli, marketing support by Taylor Blessing, and I'm your host, James Carman. Thanks for listening.